You are listening to We Are the Compassionate Revolution. I'm your podcast host, therapist, author, boundaries guide, Molly Moon. If you are a compassionate person and you want to know your worth, set better boundaries, live from your truth, and operate in your fullness, then I am so glad you've joined us. You ready? Let's get started. I just finished the fourth and final retreat of 2025 with a powerful group of healers, leaders, change agents, empaths in Maui. Actually, I'm still in Maui as I record this episode. Hawaii is such an incredible place, and it's a joy to be here. And the retreat magic is still swirling in me. So instead of an interview with another compassionate person, I thought I would talk a little bit today about these retreats, why I started offering them, and my goals for them going forward. In 2023, I was told to begin offering retreats, that the online work inside the Boundaries program that I run was so good and so right, so needed, that I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing, but also that there's something really special that can happen in live work, something that cannot be replicated in an online format, something very different. And so now that I had the online work dialed in, the magic was happening over and over and over again inside of the Becoming Boundaried Bootcamp, that it was time for me to add a new opportunity to the mix that required the use of different tools in my toolbox and a different gifting that I was here on this planet to help catalyze inside of others. I didn't really understand all of what that meant, but I did know enough to know to just do it. So the first retreat that I ever did, which was in Alaska, held at the beautiful home of some dear friends of mine on a gorgeous hill covered with blooming fireweed, overlooking the ocean, the mountains. That first retreat, I knew I was supposed to do it, I just didn't know how. So I thought I needed to teach. At that time, I was so used to teaching and leading workshops in the online world inside my Boundaries program that I couldn't pop my head out of that framework. So, get this, because it's kind of funny. I don't know if any of you can relate, but I went into the live retreat with a whole notebook full of plans, literally charting out each part of the day. We're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. And it's funny because I can still see that notebook in my mind's eye right now. Because those plans were good. I mean, they came from my skill sets. The exercises were really good. They were also full of good intentions, full of intellectual and rational and cerebral content. I have no doubt it would have been good. But I get in there on that first day. I bring my notebook with me. And I sit down. I'm looking around this circle of incredible humans who have gathered that I'm so honored to be with. And I felt into the space, and I felt into the people. And at that moment, I threw away my whole entire plan. And something completely different happened instead. There's no script for it. There was no plan. I just saw it in that moment, and I knew enough to know how to get out of my own way, which is such a skill set, a very underrated skill set for those of us who are healers. And I let what was supposed to happen with techniques that really can only be done in their fullness in real time and space with our bodies. Because these techniques, they are somatic, they are limbic system oriented. It's hard to describe, but the best way I can describe it, honestly, is like creating a psychedelic space, but without psychedelics. I've often called it dropping down into the tectonic plates of the psyche. And we can and do that online all the time. However, when we gather in real time and space, it is like popping open a portal to the real stuff that's usually invisible. The real stuff beneath the way things look on the outside. The beliefs that are moving and directing our lives, often without us even knowing it. And when you can get into that space, whenever we humans get into that space, big things can begin to change and move and shift and transform. And actually, I'll give you an example from that very first retreat. Now, every retreat is completely different. But in that first retreat, we got visited by the grandmothers. Each person was helped to identify a message that they got from an ancestor, a coping technique, so to speak, but a coping technique that was not doing them any favors now, but that had been handed down over the generations and was embedded to such an extent that it felt impossible to move or to change. And without even planning it, the coping techniques everybody identified all came from a grandmother. So we got to meet those grandmothers, even though they were already passed on. One grandmother, and this will give you kind of an example. One grandmother was married to a man who never stopped drinking. And as a good Catholic, for her, there was no birth control. So she basically had baby after baby after baby with a husband who was impossible to live with. And yet there was no option but to live with him in that time, in that context, while also having to figure out a way to somehow feed and clothe these children while she lived in a state of abject poverty, while she was forever pregnant or breastfeeding, while she was in basic servitude to someone who had all the power but was taking none of the responsibility. So her message, her coping skill that she found, and good thing she did, was don't feel what you feel. Stuff those feelings down somewhere where you'll never find them, because how you feel and what you feel is irrelevant. Feeling that will just get in the way of surviving. Feeling that will make you crack. And then who's going to make sure these children have food? So, through these somatic limbic system techniques, when we saw her, when we heard her, her message that she had passed on made so much sense. Of course she couldn't feel what she felt. Of course she had to stuff her feelings. There was nothing pathological about that. In the context she was in, with the resources she had, and by that I mean didn't have, she actually came up with an excellent survival strategy that without which, I don't know if her children would have made it. Only the problem now is, what is that survival strategy still doing here, operating at full power in her grandchild, right? Who is now an adult and needs to be able to feel their feelings, but can't because of this deep embedded coping strategy that has become literal programming. The grandchild has been given the mantle, so to speak, of not feeling what she felt, not allowing her emotions to see the light of day, not even allowing herself to see her feelings, much less identify them. That's a problem. But when we don't understand where these strategies come from, we can spend a lot of time and a lot of money and energy and effort trying to fix this problem of ours, trying to figure out a way to feel, to identify and accept our emotions. You can read books about how to be more emotionally aware, but it won't work, or at least it won't work very well, because we didn't get to the root of it. Until you unhook from that deep, deep belief, you'll have very little success in trying to change the behaviors attached to it. But if you try to fight that deep, deep belief, what often happens is the deep belief is only strengthened. Our whole inside system goes into a revolt because it's at war. We become at war with ourselves. So fighting that deep coping strategy also does not work. Guess what works? Understanding the survival strategy and seeing it in the light of day with openness and curiosity so that we can honor it. And we did. In that retreat, we got to honor that grandmother. We got to see her, cry for her, understand her, respect her, reverence her for her sacrifice. And that is the counterintuitive way that we heal and change. By facing these things head on, not trying to avoid them, not trying to run from them, not trying to fight them or see them as an enemy, but understand. How did this programming get in here? Where does it come from? Why is it there? What was it trying to do originally? And guess what? Having heard her story, we were then able to help explain to that grandmother how her survival strategy, which is so smart, wise, and good, accidentally got passed on to her progeny. And you know what? She didn't know that. That grandmother did not mean to do that. Passing on that survival strategy wasn't her desire. It was more the opposite. She used that survival strategy to survive so that her children could survive, and somebody somewhere, whether it's her children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren, somebody in her line could have a chance to do something different. And how incredibly healing it was to have that grandmother say, I don't want you to carry this. I am so sorry. This coping strategy was the best of the bad options I had to choose from, but it was not meant for you. And obeying it as a way of life is hurting you. Please do not carry this coping strategy one more second. It's not for you. It's not for you. And you not only have my permission to release it, you have my blessing. Please release it as a gift to me. And let me just tell you, for all of us together to witness this and hold space for this, as we all watched this old survival strategy both be honored and released, there honestly are no words. It's a very palpable experience. And then to get to celebrate the unfolding of the truth that wanted to be there in its place inside of that human. There's no words for that either. I get chills all over my body just thinking about it, and it was 2 years ago. And that's just a little taste of what happens inside of live retreats. Because every single retreat is different, because each one brings in a different group of leaders, of healers, of givers, of helpers, of empaths ready to go deep. And there's a different theme that arises, a different magic that unfolds, but they're all magic in their own way. And it's a joy to be part of them. I run out of words to describe the feeling, but it is so much fun to get to operate for myself as a healer at that level for my fellow healers. It's a blessing. Actually, I guess that would be the closest word. I have such gratitude. But I also have not announced any retreat dates for 2026. all 4 of the retreats in 2025, we had Alaska. We had Wisconsin in February. That was hilarious. I didn't realize that Wisconsin in February would be even colder than Alaska was. That was so fun. We had Arizona in April. We had Alaska in July, and then we had Maui this December for 2025. And just each one such an amazing, luscious, powerful experience. But I've had a pause on getting anything set up for 2026. And a big part of that has been because my book's coming out. And that's a new experience for me. I'm going on a book tour, but I've never been on a book tour before, so I don't really quite know what that means. I know it'll be fun. I'm down for it. But my book tour starts in the US at the end of February. I think starting in California, by the way. So anyone who lives on the northwest side of the United States, I'll be California, Oregon, and Washington and going from there. But I've been unsure exactly of how to add in retreats along with book tour stops. Though, I think that's going to be very doable. The other reason, and the bigger reason I've been waiting to decide on retreat times and dates is because I've felt some changes in the mix. There is a new element that I want to add to live gatherings, and it has to do with music. I am looking for musicians because there's something related to voice and singing, music, dancing, drumming that's going to be added, but I need musicians to do that. I play guitar, but not that well. I need actual musicians to do this with, and they can't just be any musicians. So I want people who are like me, who are like us, people who are compassionate people themselves, who want to see their fellow compassionate humans set free and released into their power. Because I have a music project. Oh, it's going to be so good. I have a music project that currently exists only in my head and heart, and it weaves and interweaves so beautifully with live events and retreats. I'm not actually sure how it's all going to come together, but I know that after this time in Maui, I am finally ready to move forward and trust that it will come together, because that's kind of how I've done everything. Creating cartoons, starting the Boundaries program, starting live retreats, writing this book. I see it, I start moving forward, and the how gets figured out as I do so. And many of you who are also creatives or healers, you might be able to relate if you think back to how you've done things. Many times we start moving forward with the best how that we can conceptualize, but it is in the doing of it that a much deeper, richer, and fuller how begins to materialize. And then all we have to do is participate with it. The thought of getting to add live music with intent to use it kind of as sound healing, but in a very somatic way. Honestly, it kind of makes me want to cry from the sheer joy of it, because can it get any more wonderful than this? What I get to do is already so amazing. I cannot imagine adding music to it. So, kind of like that very first live retreat, I know enough to just do it, even when my head doesn't know how. So I'm holding that same energy for the changes to come in 2026. I have a vision of what can happen. I understand from my experience that what will happen is probably 10 times better than my vision. But holy smokes, you guys, if what happens in my vision can come to pass, it's going to be so incredible. It's hard to believe the retreats can possibly get any better, but I know they can, and I'm here for it. So when I do have the details for 2026, the times, the dates, I will post them on my website, boundaried.com. But right now, as of the recording of this podcast, it's all in motion. But it's going to be good. Also, if you know of any good musicians that are aligned with the Compassionate Revolution and would love to join an experiment and make something beautiful together, I am looking for them. I have a music project that includes both recordings and live work that is going to be so badass. I'm just waiting for the wonderful humans called to do it with me. So my contact info is on my website, boundary.com. Send me an email. Tell me a bit about you, what you play, what's drawing you to consider this, and we will connect. And the caveat is live retreats are not for everybody. This is really, really high-level work. It's really fun. It's really incredible. So if you feel called to do something like that in 2026, I will have the information up on my website at some point, and it would be a joy to have you. A joy to have you. Until next time, remember, love is the way. And that means you are worthy of the same love you give so easily to everyone else. Thanks for being here today. I am going to go take myself, while I'm still here in the beautiful island of Maui, I'm going to go take myself on a walk on the beach and then get back to work planning and plotting some dates for 2026 retreats. My compassionate friend, I am so glad you're with us. We are the Compassionate Revolution. We are the change the world needs, and we're becoming it. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or give this podcast a 5-star review. I'd appreciate it so much. And if you'd like to get practical and work with me more closely on boundaries, you can come visit me at boundaried.com. That's boundaried with a D.com for amazing resources. Because this is how we do it. One action at a time. We are moving into our power. And I'm so proud to be in this movement with you.